As Senior Vice President and National Sales Head, Liabilities and Corporate Salary at Bandhan Bank, Mr. Dheeraj Puri.
My advice to the young professionals, these days who are coming up over there is that, coming and wanting to join a banking organization is...
Now let's fast forward to where you are right now, leading one of the largest retail banking networks in the country.
Driving alignment is not about, showing Excel on the numbers or not showing PowerPoints,
Absolutely. And I feel that the kind of mindset you had.
The key lessons, leading at a scale is that people don't follow strategy. They follow energy, they follow clarity and the intent.
Hi everyone, welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I'm your host Charu Mehra, and today we are diving into the world of banking leadership, where balance sheets meets bold decisions, where customer trust is built brick by brick, and where strategy meets scale in real time. Our guest today has spent over 2 decades shaping retail and consumer banking across some of the biggest names in the industry: ICICI Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, IndusInd Bank, Utkarsh Small Finance Bank, and now Bandhan Bank. From managing flagship branches to leading national sales, from launching new corporate salary channels to driving CASA growth with record breaking campaigns, he has been at the center of transformations after transformations. Today, as Senior Vice President and National Sales Head, Liabilities and Corporate Salary at Bandhan Bank, he leads a team delivering massive business volumes across the country, shaping the way retail banking touches millions of lives. But beyond the numbers, this is a story of building teams, driving culture, and leading through change. So let's welcome Mr. Dheeraj Puri. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Charu, first of all, for the warm introduction. And I'm very grateful for this platform to share my journey and insights. And if I can add some value addition to people who are listening out to me. I have over 2 decades of experience in the diverse banking ecosystem, and what I can say is that my leadership has been shaped up by building distribution from the grounds up and launching new banking channel and driving national level sales, and this is
Right.
which is very, very fascinating for me. And I love my job. And I'm more excited by the ongoing evolution in the retail banking space, which is
Right.
focusing on the blending the trust part, technology, and the talent part. If we are able to gel all these, ingredients, I think, that's a recipe for building up a good bank book. So this is
Right.
what it is,
Great. So I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you today. So Mr. Puri, when we look at a resume, we see the titles, the roles, and the achievements. But what we don't see are the real stories, the moments of uncertainty, the decisions that shaped your path, and the lessons learned along the way. Can you take us back to the early days of your career? Maybe share one experience that set you on this journey, one challenge that truly tested you, or one defining decision you look back on with pride today.
So I would say that, I was, when I was pursuing my commerce, I was pretty inclined towards banking from that day only. And I was fascinated by the role of bankers, what used to be there at that point in time. And
Right.
used to be a very, very respectable job, so that is what, what fascinated me. So, way back, if I look at my journey, I started up with Deutsche Bank. It was an MNC bank and a good platform for a fresher kind of, for a fresher like me. And, over there, I could understand how the banking works. I
Right.
got the exposure towards the ops side. I got into an environment which was, having a tight deadlines and higher accuracy, because obviously it was related to the corporates, big time corporates over there. And
Right.
I would say, the message from, my learning from there was that you have to build trust, precision, and ownership. It is not about only numbers. If you talk about
Absolutely.
banking is about relationship. So, and then from there on, I moved on to ICICI Bank, where I got an opportunity, and that is what I feel proud of, handling the flagship branch of ICICI Bank over there. And the banking, it was into retail space, so lower, the challenge was to have a low customer turnaround. And so obviously rebuilding the team routines was one of the challenges what I faced over there, and driving down the accountability culture. So if you're able to build that in a retail space, because retail is more granular, retail says that you have to take a deep dive, you have to go more micro, more detailing. That is why it is called as retail. So the learnings over there was to create a belief and rhythm in the team, not only about giving instruction, but taking them along with what you're doing. From there I moved on. I made a career move, which was a pivotal career move for me. And I left my comfort zone because I was already doing good over there. I started up in Kotak. I was handling the non-profitable branches, bringing them up the curve. From there, I took on to building up a corporate salary book and starting up the channel in IndusInd Bank. It was a very satisfying experience from me because it was building up a national team from scratch. It was more warm to Tom approach, And the takeaways from there was that you have to take your risk, calculated risk, and enable exponential growth, right? And learn about building up businesses. So that's where my learning started in terms of building up business. Prior to that, it was more transactional in nature. So this is where I IndusInd was the organization where I got that experience. And right now in my it is I would say that in my current role, my journey reflects that career are shaped by the key decisions what you make, and growth needs leap before certainty. So you have to reinvent, keep on reinventing things, how you can do it in a better manner. And my advice to the young professionals, these days who are coming up over there is that, coming and wanting to join a banking organization is that breakthroughs don't come through comfort zones. They begin when you actually take ownership of problems. When you start taking ownership of problem, go beyond your job titles, and that is where the real journey begins.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so fascinating to know about your journey. I remember the first time I walked into a new environment. It is so exciting and terrifying at the same time. And what I really like is that you faced all the challenges head on, and with every challenge you learn something new, which you adapted in your next role, and that is so inspiring to know. So thank you for sharing your journey with us, and kudos on those on the successes you had throughout your career.
Thank you.
Puri, your story of your early journey gives us such great context of the kind of leader you are today. Now let's fast forward to where you are right now, leading one of the largest retail banking networks in the country, managing thousands of people, and driving growth at a scale that impacts millions of customers. So, stepping into a role where you're leading a nationwide network with thousands of team members is a huge responsibility. When you first took charge, what were the top priorities in your mind, and how did you go about setting the tone of the team, bringing everyone together, aligning them to a common goal, and creating early wins that build trust and confidence?
So as you rightly mentioned, the banking is about touching customer heart, and there are millions of customer interactions monthly which happen across the bank. So the immediate challenge was not the title, but to build up the scale, because end of the day, you have to see that whether we are able to build scale in the business. Obviously, there are sentiments attached, team sentiments. There is excitement also mixed with anxiety. And the first impression when I took up the national role, when in it journey again, it started way back with IndusInd. The first impression what I had was that team needed clarity, direction, and confidence. These are the elements which a team looks up. When they look up at you as a leader. When you are steering the ship. So my first priority was to understand. Don't instruct, don't get into, avoid the mechanical approach of instructing the team. try to build up a bond which can, which can stay with them. So initially, initial few weeks when I started on my journey, I used to listen to my regional head. I used to visit branches, assessing the on ground morale, taking up the bottoms of feedback. And three quick insights which emerged, which I mentioned earlier also, were that people needed clarity on direction.
Right.
Processes need simplification. The processes also needed simplification, because leadership is not about only instructing people, but to enable them. How do we enable them, to reach on to a particular roles? And the early wins had to be visible, so that, proof of the pudding is in eating. And unless, people don't taste success, they will not believe in you. They will not believe your vision. So obviously, initial actions, what I did was to build up the momentum. I, realigned the communication flow. I launched weekly direct connect with the field teams. And that was a gratifying experience for me as well, because, you were listening from the people, you were listening it from the horse's mouth, what is the problem, what are the challenges, what they are facing in terms of, reaching to the desired productivity levels. And, obviously I did some quick reviews. I used to do a quick reviews on the productivity, and also ensuring that, the journeys of the acquisition model are very seamless, because enablement also plays a very, very important role, when you build up a business. So the journey had to be, absolutely seamless.
Right.
And again, I'm a firm believer, that driving alignment is not about, showing Excel on the numbers, or not showing PowerPoints. It is, we have been doing this. There are people who think that we have been doing this for a year. Why to change? So influencing is the first, the first factor what you need to play, when you're getting and building up a business. And that is where, I use some kind of influencing tools. When you're building up a business, you also have to play a role of an influencer. So I used to do a lot of town halls, with people, branch visits, informal huddles. And, my core message was that this is not about pressure. It's about smarter growth, faster wins, and visible impact. So what, obviously this was my top agenda. And obviously, people should believe you when they see proof beats promises. I can keep on promising you that, we will do well. But unless you taste success, you will not believe in me, or you will not believe in the vision. And if you believe in it, then it starts happening automatically. Then it becomes goes on an auto mode. It is not a push model. Then it becomes a pull model. People drive it from within. So obviously we, since we were a latecomer in that segment, as a bank, when we entered into that business, there was no shame for me to accept the best business practices. So of the best business practices, we did some SWOT analysis also. What we picked up the best practices from the business, and that supported us. They acted as a momentum builders. And they were, this is where we also embraced feedback on technology front. Re-engineering was done. So there was some slowdown in the processes which were identified. So process re-engineering was to be done, and used feedback loops. Also, like in a FMCG pilot, before the scale, you do a feedback loop and make small course correction, build credibility through responsiveness. So this is we followed. And the key lessons, leading at a scale, is that people don't follow strategy. They follow energy, they follow clarity and the intent. If your intent is absolutely good, you will go miles. Your intent has to be sincere, it has to be honest, and it is, listening without ego, and making people feel that they are part of the build-up. That is something which is the most core ingredient in terms of building up a team.
Right, absolutely. And I feel that the kind of mindset you had, wherein you adopted a mindset where you are not instructing the people, but you are first taking feedback, listening to them, shows the kind of a leader you are. And it's really hard to even imagine the kind of responsibility of managing thousands of people and impacting millions of customers. That must have felt like standing on a mountain peak, looking at the
Yeah.
expanse of what needed to be done. So
No, I
it's a
agree, Charu, and in one of the, again, one of the learnings what I had from my mentors is that in large system, culture travels faster than the target.
fast. Agreed.
So set the culture first and the targets will follow. You
Right.
have to, my takeaways, which is there is create velocity, intensity with trust and not pressure. Set
Right.
the right tone and culture before setting the targets. If you're able to do that, then you're able to set the entire premise. You set the foundation for build up.
Agreed. 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 Wonderful, sir. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right. So back. You've spearheaded major initiatives like the launch of corporate salary channel and campaigns such as Grow Deposit, Grow Together. Can you walk us through one of the growth challenges that really tested you? Maybe a tough target, a new product rollout, or a campaign that needed to mobilize thousands of employees across the country. How did you rally your team and turn that challenge into a success story?
We generally, tend to focus on what our core KRAs are, but this was beyond that. This was
Right.
something which was very exciting, and this was a vision of our managing director and our executive directors. And
Okay.
the challenge was that, obviously, as a bank, it was very exciting, and this was a vision of our managing director and our executive directors. And
Okay.
the challenge was that, obviously, as a bank, as across the banking industry, you can see that there is a slow pressure for visible liability growth, which is there.
Right.
And for this, keeping that thing, they had a vision in mind, to put all the entire bank together for this initiative. It was not,
Mm-hmm.
bringing people. It was bringing people from all the department put together. And
Okay.
initially there were hurdles. It was there is a apprehension that it is just another campaign, obviously. So we first had tech. We figured out whether the tech was enabled in terms of getting everyone involved over there.
Right.
Some department even questioned their involvement, especially non-branch units, saying that what
Mm-hmm.
it is not our core KRA. Why should we contribute towards it? And
Mm-hmm.
this is where the entire spirit of togetherness, spirit of oneness, which was there, and which was the vision of our managing director and executive directors, which we followed. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like a big e-commerce launch. That. The product was ready, but the ecosystem was unaligned. If the
Right.
ecosystem was unaligned, and it was moving from targets to ownership.
Okay.
And so what we followed was that we got into a rhythm wherein we reframed the campaign as an institutional movement, not a
Okay.
departmental task.
Okay.
The
Wow.
moment you make it a departmental task, the people, there is a lack of ownership.
Right.
This is where we got into leadership, certain leadership action. We did some cross-functional core with other department like HR, IT, product, treasury department, and in fact, obviously branch banking. We
Mm-hmm.
introduced micro leaderboards, informal competitions, and publicly celebrated small wins, because to give the confidence to people, and
Right.
empowered regional heads to lead local storytelling, because people
Okay.
are more interested when you talk in a story form. And this is
Uh,
what stays with us, because in
Agreed.
this scenario the attention span is very less for people. So we did all these things, putting everyone together. Then there was a small spark. There is a back office team, a non-sales team, sourcing multiple high value FDs via personal network. And
Mm-hmm.
that story we went viral internally, and that
Wow.
shifted the energy and belief across the organization. The
Right.
result was that momentum was built like a flywheel, you know and there was a phenomenal participation. and we did almost double the numbers, what we used to do it in a quarter. I
Wow.
put the numbers over here, but yes, the participation came in from out of around 75,000 people, 20,000 people contributed, and we were able to garner around 68,000 fixed deposit. So the feeling at the end of the day was that sales is no longer someone's job. It is an institutional job. People, it's a ownership. So all 20,000 people felt like co-creators.
Right.
They felt like co-creators, not executor. So execution, then in that scenario, the executions become exponential. So and again, a learning which was there from this entire campaign was that a target shared is a task, but a purpose shared is a force.
Power of hands-on leaderships.
So
Seems
there
like
also, I would say that there, one of the principles which I learned in the early stages of my career way back in ICICI Bank was a concept of SIL, which is short interval leadership. So
great.
wherein you get into a small huddle, motivate people, encourage people to perform. And I think that is something which worked in our favor.
Right.
Like from my ICSA days, we were able to implement over here, and that played a very important, crucial role in making this campaign a big success.
Success, absolutely. And it seems like those small interventions created sort of a real momentum and pushed
Yeah.
the team and motivated the team. So kudos on that success, sir.
Mhm.
All right, so let's take a quick break and then we'll move on.
So
Next one.
We were on track in terms of.
Absolutely, absolutely. This one was short and precise. When you're leading at the national level, there's always a tug of war between vision and execution, between thinking big and getting things done on the ground. How do you strike that balance? And can you share a moment where your vision for the business met real world challenges and how you navigated it?
So, when you get into this kind of mode where you have to launch a particular business, and there is a mix of anxiety, there is a mix of excitement, and obviously sense of nervousness also, which is there. And my favorite analogy over there is that you don't move the whole mountain. You move one stone and make people believe it's shifting. And if you go with that, and that's a winning formula, what I feel, that make the large ambitions feel winnable in small pieces. So if you're able to do that, I think then the things start moving. So what the point over here is, the case in point over here was to launch a new salary channel for the Bandhan Bank, and again build up a new vertical, new product designing. And so there was initial challenges. We identified those challenges. There were role clarity issues at branches. Tech readiness was inconsistent, and HR and ops aligned in theory, but they were slowed by staff mindset barriers, training, and competing business priorities. So, the first thing was that shift from idea to intent, right?
Right.
There should be a narrative before the numbers. So we positioned the product as a feed for long-term CASA growth. As a long-term CASA growth, getting more affluent segment, cross-selling, getting new salary relationship. So it was not just another target. It was more building up a CASA thing, which is again the core KRA, and aligning people on that aspect. So it was like a fodder. It was like a fodder for building up CASA book.
Right.
So we first identified, first wave of high energy team within the system, and we aligned them, and so that their win serves as an internal proof of concept. So we did that as a pilot in one of the regions first, created internal case studies for building up that momentum, and there is a actionable rhythm before the action. So obviously we did some we made the processes very lean. Again, there is a rapid feedback loop which started in the initial pilot phase, and there was a parallel support by the trainings team, dashboards, and the product clarification. And the result was again phenomenal. That within 1 month of start of that channel, we were able to onboard 100 salary relationships, and there was a contribution from across branch managers also started spotting the cross sell opportunities over there. Not only cross sell opportunities across the product, whether it is asset product, insurance, and distribution. So I think that was a great learning experience for me. And
Wow.
I think the core takeaway and come for this for our national leadership is that translating ambition into ownership. If translating your ambition and creating that ownership by taking people along, you will go
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. And I do believe that, the
along.
bigger the vision, the more the ground pushes. And those small steps that you take, they were small, but they created the momentum and they motivated the team, and thus you got the success. So kudos on the success, sir, and thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. And so, Mr. Puri, we've been talking about leadership, strategy, and the complexities of banking at scale. This is our rapid fire round. Quick, spontaneous questions where there are no wrong answers. Say
So,
the
Charu,
first.
be lenient on that, be lenient on that. I'm a banker and I would not have, those kind of out of box kind of thing, But yes, I'll try to answer as much as I can in
As
honest
yes,
way.
absolutely, as much as you can. Okay, so just say the first thing that comes to your mind. All right, ready?
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
the first one. If you could teleport anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
Straight to Switzerland, mountains, silence, and no emails.
This one I can, relate to. No emails.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Which song instantly lifts your mood no matter how stressful the day has been?
I think the song "यूं ही कट जाएगा सफर साथ
Summer?
चलते" from movie "हमें राही प्यार के."
Yes,
It
that's a wonderful
hit
song.
instantly in a sweet way.
Wow, that's really nice. Okay, one dish you could eat every single day and never get tired of.
Rajma chawal, I think
Ah,
classic and comforting.
agreed, agreed. Yes, okay. One small luxury you can't live without.
I can't live without my 7 to 8 cups of green tea. That's it.
Aha! All right, next one. The last thing you watched and that made you laugh out loud.
An old Kapil Sharma show clip. The timing of that person still gets me.
It's impeccable, absolutely. I was just watching a new show, a new episode yesterday, so I can totally agree to what you're saying. All right, your go-to stress-busting activity when life gets overwhelming.
I think solo travel, it resets everything.
Wow, wonderful. All right. The last one. If your life were a book, what would its title be?
Built on hustle, driven by heart.
Oh, wow, that is nice title. I would definitely read that book. All right, that was so fantastic, Mr. Puri. We've come to an end, and I really like this round because this actually gets people to know the person behind the professional. So thank you for being so candid with us.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Mr. Puri, now let's switch gears and move to a topic that sits at the heart of sustainable banking leadership: governance, ethics, and risk management.
Okay.
You've led large cross functional teams and handled portfolios with complex compliance requirements. What are your non negotiable controls to ensure that governance isn't just documented in a manual but is lived every day on the ground? And along the way, have you discovered a governance gap, something that wasn't initially visible, that you believed every banking leader should proactively address?
To me, governance is, not having policies in files, but it must be embedded in daily behavior.
Right.
Compliance is not an end of month report. It must be a daily practice.
Agreed.
And, the one thing which keeps me going on this thing is that if ethics needs a follow-up, it's already slipping. Then one can already construe that it is already slipping.
Wow.
Banking for me is like a aviation or a pharma industry. A one miss equal to a loss of trust,
Right.
not just business. And
Right.
banking is all about trust. The moment you lose trust with people, you sabotage your entire business.
Agreed.
All about being ethical in your behavior, being compliance, and integrity is one of the these three pillars. I'm a firm believer of all these three pillars, compliance, integrity, and ethics. And
Right.
the dashboards, what I feel is that there should be in terms of governance, there should be a real-time visibility.
Right.
Dashboards must show you the exceptions. It should not only have feel-good summaries. It should show you the exceptions, and there should be high impact actions, the mandatory 4IA principle or a 6I checks, more so on onboarding of clients, disbursements, large payouts, and it should
Right.
apply regardless of the seniority. It should apply regardless of the seniority. There should be a self-escalation culture also, whistle
Right.
system, and that works only if people, feel safe. Only if people feel safe, then only they speak up. So we have to
Agreed.
get an environment where people feel safe to raise a whistle, And again, there was a real story which I'm telling you again. There was a deposit mobilization camp phase, which was there in one of my organization. The numbers were looking excellent. We were driving that campaign during that time. And but we figured out an anomaly that there was because of the tracker what we were running, it was a real-time tracker which flagged there was the unusual clustering in one of the zone.
Okay.
So what we did was, we immediately paused the transaction. We sampled the accounts. We discovered that there were some KYC shortcuts by some field members, and before it becomes a compliance breach, we reinforce that, control should question success, not just
Agreed.
failure.
Right.
Because if you're only applauding success and you're not going behind the scene that what is happening, whether all the things are in place, whether the compliance is in place or not, then you may get into a trouble at a later stage.
Right.
And
Right.
we could have got into a regulatory issue also
Agreed.
because of that. So what we did, it is about standardizing end-to-end journey and training the team not only on the outcome but also making them aware about the repercussions. If
Yeah.
they're not following the things, which is the policies of the bank or the guidelines which are issued by the bank, then what is the kind of repercussions will be there. So the key governance mindset, governance, and again, the key governance mindset which comes into my mind is that governance is not a department. A lot of people think that it is to be driven by a particular department, maybe a risk department or information security officer, but it's not a department. It's a culture which we have to build up. And the moment we build up the culture, then these are the departments which play a critical role in terms of issuing that, whether we are complied or not.
Right.
And
Right.
if the rewards are only on outcomes, not how they are achieved, people unintentionally drift, right? And
Right.
so they drift towards taking shortcuts. So you have to be very, very cognizant about the governance part.
Agreed. Agreed.
So you have to build up systems that are alert during success, not just failure.
Agreed. Agreed. Wow, and I really like when you said that the control should not just highlight the misses but also question the success. It really shows the kind of intent that you have, and I also believe that there is an art in staying vigilant. Sometimes the biggest risks are the one that you don't see immediately, and when your system is built in a way that questions your success, it kinds of gets handled before it becomes an issue. So thank you for sharing that vision with
And
us.
it should
And
apply regardless of seniority. That's very, very
exactly, that is one thing. Yes, and there should be accountability. Everyone should feel accountable for doing the right thing.
absolutely.
Right. So wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, Mr. Puri, you've recently become associated with Directors Institute. Can you take us through your experience joining the institute?
So I think, it was not about adding another credential, to my repertoire. It was, extending a leadership journey that's already spanned, having beyond, team building, business scaling, risk and compliance navigation. And it was shifting focus from a operational leadership to a boardroom lens,
Right.
and this is what I really intrigued me, for Directors Institute. It was just not a training setup, it's a governance ecosystem what this institute is trying to build up,
Right.
right? And the conversations are centered, whatever conversations we have, the real time case studies what we which are there, what we go through, the conversations are centered on fiduciary responsibilities, ethical decision making, long term value creation, and boardroom thinking beyond the balance sheet. What is the impact you are making to the society also? As I
Right.
once I got into this ESG module, I also realized, that we have a responsibility towards the society,
Right.
and it is not about grooming leaders for strategy table, but it is also creating value to the society, right? And this was again a recommendation from one of my colleagues in my
Okay.
previous organization. And I saw that there are diverse leadership profiles here in Directors Institute, people who
Right.
are from banking, infrastructure, tech, manufacturing. So I understood that this was not a checkbox journey,
Right.
and so initially, when I started off this thing, I had a mix of excitement and curiosity, being back in a room full of peers and equals. And what I appreciated most about, the entire journey, with Directors Institute is that it's real. There are case-led dialogues. There is no academic theory.
Wow.
There are discussions on ESG and board accountability. And it is framed around capital flows, trust, and reputation, not compliance checklist,
Right.
and more towards the digital governance, cyber risk, and it is seen from a board lens, right? Not a CXO lens. It is
Right.
from a board lens.
Yeah.
So, the realization which I got, that board responsibility is not about knowing more. It is about thinking differently.
Right.
So that
Right.
so far the journey has been, very exciting, and it's a perspective shift for me, honestly, if you ask.
Wow.
You know as because as operators, we more believe in a transactional kind of leadership, or transactional behavior. We focus on execution, growth, compliance, and culture. But as board leaders, the lens changes to accountability, resilience, legacy, what you're creating, what is a legacy, what you're creating, and the stewardship, so it is all about balancing. So
Right.
if you are, able to balance your executional instinct and governance thinking, this is where, I think the Director Institute has played a very important role. And joining the institute is not just to add it to my profile, it reframed how I view responsibility,
Right.
risk, and long-term impact.
Wow, wow. And I also believe that, engaging at this level must bring fresh perspectives, even for someone with your experience, right?
Absolutely. It is making my journey more meaningful, honestly. The kind of experience I'm having, listening it from other colleagues, I have been, now I'm fortunate that, I'm part of alumni, where people from various backgrounds are there and we keep on interacting. Earlier I never used to go beyond banking. I never used to think
Right.
beyond banking, but I think
Right.
it's a good exposure that, I am having an interaction with people from all, everywhere, whether it is any industry, across the industry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, thank you for that wonderful feedback for the Institute, Mr. Puri. And I really wish you all the best for the goals that you have set for yourself. And I hope that whatever you are aiming to achieve from this, you're able to and do that successfully. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Charu, for being such a nice host and making me feel comfortable. And all the best to everyone, who's watching this episode.
Thank you so much, Mr. Puri, for joining us today and sharing your journey with such openness and depth. From managing some of the largest banking teams in the country to launching innovative initiatives that are and driving a culture of trust and performance, your story truly shows what it takes to lead at scale. So, thank you for sharing that with us. To our listeners, today's conversation has been a reminder that in banking, trust is the ultimate currency. Systems and processes matter, but it's the people and values behind them that create lasting impacts. This has been FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I'm Charu Mehra. Until next time, thank you for listening and keep leading with clarity and purpose. Thank you.